Hi, my name is Alonzo Staten, and welcome to my presentation about kite-generated power. Did you know that there are actually kites that can generate power? Introduction. What is kite-gen? How does kite-gen work? And the pros and cons of kite-gen are some of the things we're going to cover in this presentation. Now, there's enough power in the airstream to power the planet 100 times over. What is kite-gen? Kite-gen is a large kite similar to a windsurfing kite that's released into the jet stream that can make and create power. Now, the jet stream is the target area for these kites. Windmills stand about 80 meters off the ground. At that height, the airspeed is about 5 to 6 meters per second, and that creates quite a bit of energy. But with these kites released into the jet stream, where the airspeed is 7 to 10 meters per second, there's a potential to create a lot more power. Now, these kites move in an up and down motion to create this power, and the purpose of kite-gen is to capitalize on all that unused high velocity speed up in the jet stream to get more power. How does kite-gen work? Well, first you've got placement. A generator is put on the ground and attached to a cable and a pulley system with a kite at the end of it. The kite is then released into the jet stream, and in an up and down yo-yo type of motion, the kite creates energy as it moves up and down. Okay, so in this diagram, you can see the generator here attached to cables and the pulley. This is the kite. The kite is pulled down, then it's released, then it's pulled down, then it's released, and this motion creates energy. Now, this kite system has only one kite on it. The kite systems can have as many as 50 kites on them, and the more kites on the pulley system, the more power that can be generated. Now, this generator has a storage unit in it, and that is what stores all the power that's created by these kites. The high-speed jet streams. Now, they're essential for the potential of how much power these kites can create. Now, on a community scale is where you're first going to see these kites being used. In the experimental phase, they'll probably take small communities, make fields of kite-generated properties to see if they can power the communities. How many kites will it take, how much land will it take, and how much energy can actually be produced to power these communities. And then you'll start seeing larger scales of these kites producing energy for bigger communities. Now that we learned how kite-gen works and where they're placed, let's learn about some of the pros and cons of kite-gen. One of the pros is it's an alternative to fossil fuels. Now we know that the natural resources of the Earth are being depleted faster than they can regenerate, so we're always looking for a way to make energy that doesn't use fossil fuels. Well, wind power is not a new technology, but it's a relatively new technology to use these kites in such a way to create power. Now, another one of the pros of kite-gen is the cost. 7 cents to the consumer for each megawatt of power produced by kite-gen, which is actually 30 times less than the fossil fuels and other ways we get power now. Another pro to kite-gen is the visibility. Now, when you see these wind turbines and these fields of windmills, a lot of times they can be an eyesore. With kite-gen, the kites are so far up in the air, they're merely a speck from the ground, much like a balloon being let go or a bird, and they're barely visible to people on the ground. Last but not least, one of the pros of kite-gen is the amount of energy that can be created. 10 square meters of kite released into the air equals 10 kilowatts. Now, for every 10 kilowatts, that equals 10 homes that can be powered simultaneously. In Italy, there's plants producing an actual gigawatt. Now, a gigawatt is equivalent to a standard coal-fired power station, which can power an entire community. Cons. The cons of kite gen are relaunching. Now, once in a while, these will have to be manually relaunched. When a kite comes down, it comes down similar to a glider. When a glider comes down, it takes little to no energy for it to hit the ground. Well, we don't want that with these particular kites. So at some point, a pulley system does come into effect, but that pulley system uses just a mere speck of the amount of energy that the kite would create. So it doesn't take very much energy or electricity at all to pull the kite down. Another con to kite-generated power is the environment. Anytime there's a new technology, you have to take the environment under consideration. It's very important. What we've learned so far, what scientists have learned so far, is that one of the things that has affected the environment is that birds sometimes can be caught in these nets, much like fishermen catching the wrong fish in their nets. It's bad, but it does happen, so it has to be looked at and it has to be put into play. Another con is the places where kite gen works the best. Now we can have kite gen in the United States, but we don't have the jet streams that other countries have. Places like Denmark, Norway, and other places in Europe actually have the strongest, most powerful winds in their jet stream to produce the best amount of power from kite gen. Okay, so in conclusion, what is kite gen? Kite gen is power produced by kites released into the air and pulled back in to create power. How does kite gen work? Kite gen is attached to a generator on the ground, which connects to a cable, which connects to a pulley that reels a kite in and out, creating power. Some of the pros of kite gen are the cost, the visibility from the ground, which is a lot less than a lot of the other alternative energies that we use and see, the amount of power, 10 meters of kite, 10 square meters of kite for 10 kilowatts for 10 homes powered, and last but not least, it's an alternative energy to where we can use a lot less fossil fuel, which is always a plus. The cons are the environment, the fact that birds might get caught up in some of these kites, the best places being not necessarily in the U.S., although we are able to do it here, the best places are in other countries, so that can be a con to what we're able to use and how much the potential for kite gen we have. And the relaunching, which is something that has to be done manually and has to be done whenever there is either a storm warning or commercial or military planes in the area. Now, since there's 100 times more power in the jet stream than it takes to power the entire planet, kite gen is being tested everywhere, mostly in Europe, but once we're able to perfect this technology, then we'll have another alternative to fossil fuels. So, is there any questions?
Nope.
Okay, well thank you for listening to my presentation on kite-generated power.